All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to more Black Desert. So today, I wanted to talk about the different buffs in the game and what you should use for like PvP, PvE, and life skilling. And the reason I brought this up is because I was looking at my elixirs earlier. I was like, what do I need to recraft? And so I figured, let's talk about this. So for all of you who are new players and or just people who are looking to get into the high-end spots, these are the buffs that I use. And let's talk about why I think they're worth it. So, if you are a new player, chances are you won't need to be using like full-on elixir rotations, because I think that just using a draft is probably the way to go. So let's talk about all the things over here. So I have 3 setups, and it doesn't matter if you have continuous care 1 to 5. I am going to show you like what everything you can set up. So let's talk about the foods. We have 3 different cron meals: the exquisite, simple, and seafood. The seafood is obviously for life skilling. The simple is more for PvE because it gives monster damage. And the exquisite one is more, I guess, for PvP, though I have seen exquisites used in grinding as well. So one of the 2 should be used. They're like different and situational. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's just if you look at the AP caps for various monster zones, you'll see that sometimes maybe you overclear by a lot, and it's better to just get more like critical damage or whatever, back attacks and everything else. And sometimes you just need that extra monster AP damage. So chances are, in most bots for your average player, I think that cron meals or the simple cron meals are better for PvE, but you know, exquisite depends on the situation. So when we talk about the drafts and elixirs, you can only use one of each kind. So like if you use a draft, you can't use elixirs, and the other way around. So I think for most people, the frenzy draft or beast giants are probably the way to go. And let's actually look at that real quick. So there are 4 different kinds that you can use. The verdure is for life skillers. The beast one, I think, is if you are grinding a spot and you don't technically need it. Let's say you're like 280 AP and you're grinding a 230 AP zone. Chances are beast will probably be better, or if you're just trying to push levels instead of like max damage or something. Or if you're like very high geared and you're trying to go for like, I don't know, the compass, and you definitely don't need all the AP. Chances are this is probably fine. Giants I see more used in PvP, but it's not like a bad thing if you're just using it while grinding, because understandably frenzies are almost like, they were 4 million each at one point, and then they kind of went down, which is good. So I've seen that used, and then frenzies are obviously probably the best in slot for high-end grinding and or mid to high end, and when you don't want to use elixirs. So I personally use this a lot. The tip I can give you guys is try to get the like the frenzy ones instead of the regular ones. Wait, what are they called? They're like the same thing, except one gives 5 extra AP. Either way, here's how you get these ones. I would not recommend buying them if you can grind out the things yourself, because they sit at min price. So let's say you get a frenzy elixir or a draft, right? You get these things from your storage as well, these corrupted breaths. I get them from Hex when I'm grinding Elvia, but either way, if you don't have them, it's not a big deal, because I think there's a lot of them sitting on a market. Yeah, there's like 800,000 hard minimummed. And so if you combine the regular frenzy plus 2 corrupted breaths, I believe it just gives you a 5 extra AP bonus. So it's definitely worth using. And then it turns into the like the glowy red one, and that's about it. So chances are, for most people, just using a frenzy is probably the way to go. And let's see, what else? We'll talk about perfumes later, because they're kind of expensive, and you have to kind of ask yourself, is the 300 extra AP or the 5 extra monster damage worth the 5 mil every 20 minutes? That's up to you. And let's talk about elixirs. So as you guys know, elixirs are the end game like chances are the only reason you're using it is for PvP, the boss splits, and or you're in like a very high-end spot or group grinding, right? So the basics of this are you get green tier, blue tier, and then party tier. And chances are when you're making a lot of these yourself, because I think that a lot of blue ones don't really sit on the market as much. Maybe they do now after the mini game gathering thing and people are just selling raw materials now. It's a lot easier. But chances are you're going to have a lot of green elixirs. What you do with them is from the NPC, you buy the blue reagents and then it turns it into the blue ones. And then you could do this in groups of 10, so that just speeds it up. And what you do to turn them into party elixirs, you want to do it on the blue ones, is you get these all tiers and then you combine like 2 to 1. So all of this, like all these things, you could just buy off the NPC vendor, so infinite stock. And here's what I use for PvE grinding, and I guess a little bit of PvP as well. So I separated these elixirs in particular because these are what I use for my fairy. I only have a continuous care 4 instead of 5, so I can only use 16 slots instead of 20. But ultimately, like, chances are if you're using this, you can just manual pop the others. So we have Lethal Destruction, Strong Shock, Sky Elixir, Brutal Carnage, Steel Defense, Grim Reapers, Strong Life, Endless Fury, Sharp Detection. Detection pots are very difficult to find because it requires truffle gathering, and that one is just like all over the place, and it's kind of expensive. So I get that most people won't have them, and I have to gather more later as well. So ugh. Lethal Assassin, Flowing Wind, Brutal Death, Brutal Perforation, Strong Draining, and Endless Frenzy. So technically, when you're stacking elixirs, they are better than the drafts that you get over here. So if you look at these are what the stats give you, and elixirs are obviously like min-maxing to the best of your ability. However, it costs a lot more, so you're basically paying, I don't know, maybe probably like 25-30 mil every 15 minutes. So it's just like when you use them, you really have to make sure you're getting your value out of them. And yeah, that's what I have. So other things that I think are important, let's talk about these. So I'm going to hover over all of these and show you how to get them as well. And I'll just see what kind of materials they require, and I'll tell you which ones are probably going to be your bottleneck. So yeah, let's see. Out of all of these, the rest of these elixirs are probably just other things that you may or may not need. Like for PvP, concentrations for accuracy might be good. But anyway, so let's see. What are the things you're probably going to be bottlenecked for lethal destructions? Probably the cedar saps, because saps in general are a bottleneck for most people, and then you have to go gather it yourself. But I think there are nodes that'll allow you to get them. I think the snowfield cedar saps are down in the Eternal Winter. Let me show you. Okay, yeah. So you get these saps from down in Mountain of Eternal Winter in that area. I think I have a node going on for that. So that's where it is. Cedar saps you could gather down in the Dragon area, or I think that's actually in a lot of spots, but I know it's down into Kama to Odalita Dragon area. And then that's going to be your bottleneck for that one. Sky elixirs. I think the expensive part is probably getting the bloody tree knots. Now, you probably have a lot if you've never done any alchemy before, because you get them off the nodes in like Heidel, Velia, and basically everywhere. But they are kind of expensive to the point where you're going to need them. And Trace of Ascensions, I actually, ever since the minigame has came out, Traces I see more on the market, minus the yellow ones, which is memory. But I think getting Traces is expensive, but it's a lot easier to get nowadays. Brutal Carnage. Spirit Leafs might be your bottleneck, And then Trace of Earths is a lot because I believe Trace of Earth is actually used to make the Frenzy elixirs. And for all the people who grind Underwater Sakraya, I think you need that as one of the ingredients to turn them like the... What are these things? Oh, maybe not, but Elixir Frenzies, or like one of the mini elixirs that you need to craft with the Abyssal Essences, probably requires Trace of Earth, I believe. And Steel Defense elixirs, the one that's probably going to be your bottleneck is Ash Sap. And I remember actually seeing this in particular. Oh my god. Because there's like 200,000 orders. So in my opinion, the best way to gather Ash Sap is probably down somewhere. Like if you go down here to gather, or right near Heidel, that's a good spot to go about doing it. And yeah, I'm Guru 22 gathering because I do a lot of the gathering for the materials myself, all the way to alchemy and cooking. So yeah, just like all these spots is just things I figured out over time myself. Grim Reaper's Soul, or Grim Reaper's Elixirs. Now this is a very important one because it's like recover HP on hit, especially if you're doing high-end areas. The recovery is very important. So let's see. Trace of Origin, I believe, is the pink one. And it's not hard to get. You can probably put an order on and get a few thousand a day. And let me actually look at that. So I know this is for the NA server, but I don't think there's too many orders. Yeah, if you just put an order at max price, you'll get it within like 20 minutes. Easy. Strong Life. I don't think there are any bottlenecks. The hardest one to get is probably a lot of Fox Blood, but you can get that down in the Ancient Stone Chamber area. I did a rotation video for gathering and life skills, so it's easy to get, not a big deal, but that's probably going to be your biggest bottleneck. Endless Fury, once again, is Ash Sap, the bottleneck, because you need a lot of those. Sharp Detection, probably arguably one of the hardest elixirs to make in the game, because you need truffle mushrooms, and truffles are just scattered, and that drop rate of them is very low, because you only get like, what, 3 to 5 if you don't hit the mini game. And yeah, it's best thing to do is just put an order on it and hope you get it, and or just find a video that shows you how to get truffles in general. Lethal Assassin, Trace of Memory, gonna be your bottleneck. The yellow traces, very difficult to get, always on order. Amanita mushrooms are kind of out of the way, but if you can put an order on them, it's probably okay to do. Flowing Winds, Pine Sap. All the saps are very expensive and it's hard to get. That'll be your bottleneck. This one is obviously Ash Sap again. Ancient mushrooms are, like, I think you can buy them off the market, but it's just, they're not really in high quantity. At least I don't think so. Brutal Perforation, Pine Sap. I don't know if bluffer mushrooms are hard to get nowadays, but if you are going out to gather truffles, you're probably going to get bluffer mushrooms on the side. And Trace of Violence, I believe, are the white ones, and very easy. You probably have thousands of them. Draining, I don't think there's anything difficult. The hump mushrooms might be the one you don't have, but it's not hard to get. And then you probably have a bunch of birch sap if you're gathering like ash and pine anyway, so you probably have that. And the last one is Frenzies, which is cedar sap and ghost mushrooms. Cedar sap gonna be your bottleneck, and that's about it. But for all of you who are life skilling, this is very easy, because there's like, you either have life skill XP or mastery. Those are the only two things you want to work on. So I believe, where is it? I don't know. There's like a mastery one. I think it's a red. Yeah. It's a red elixir. Anyway, just turn the mastery one into the blue one. You get more mastery, add life skill XP. Those are the only ones you have to work on. And for extra like PvP ones, I believe the only difference is you, aside from things I've shown, probably just more accuracy, the concentrations. But that's about it. So once again, let's talk about perfumes now. These are the ones I have at the top. So Perfume of Courage, would I recommend people to use it? It depends on the spot, because these are like 15 mil each. So I do think they're good. It's just, do I think they're 15 mil good? You better be grinding really fast and efficiently if you're using these. Other than that, like, chances are like Cron Meal, Frenzy, Tent Buff, Church Buffs, and like all the easy ones to get infinitely, just do that. That'll be your standard grinding. And then maybe a horse buff and what is it? One of those things you put in your houses. As for Lifeskillers, if you're doing a lot of horse training, the celerity drafts are the ones you go for. PvP, these are very limited, but if you can craft them and get them, the extra damage to humans plus 25, pretty nice actually. And I don't know when they gave a lot of these away, but you get a lot of Calx elixirs from events, and that's how I had it. So if you're paying like 7 mil each for them, I don't know about that one. They just kind of give them away like regularly. And then everyone else, I've seen Perfume of Insights used in PvP, but I think that's like the only place you use them. And then if you're wondering about the immortal versus irregular ones, so the way you get them is you see these Corrupt Oil of Immortality. You combine these with various perfumes in the Frenzy drafts. And then when you die, they don't break on use, but they are very expensive. So chances are you're not getting these off the market, and even at min price or max price. I'm not sure how much they are, but I think they're like 30 mil each, and they're very hard to get. So just chances are just don't die and you're good to go. So yeah, that's about like all the elixirs I wanted to talk about. Turn the green into blue, and then blue into parties, and then if you're just grinding solo, just these are fine. So yeah, hopefully you guys learned something. I know this is probably a video all over the place because it's hard to talk about like everything. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to clarify and just let you know what I think would be good for you. And yeah, that's about it. So if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'd love to see you guys come back. I make videos for beginners, returning players, and people who are just looking to get better at the game. And of course, for the next like 10 more days, I believe, until August 18th, we have the code on the channel. So if you are thinking about buying any A coins or checking out the game in general, use my code and I get a small portion of what you spend, and I'd really appreciate it. So thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.